Hey, here we are in the fitness studio. I just wanted to hang a little bit. So, I'm going to show you a move you can do any time of the day. I highly recommend this for hips, to get some muscles back here. Woke up. Especially a great warm-up, but it's just a great warm-up just to get out of the chair. And your thighs, and your knees, and your ankles. It's a great all-purpose lower body from low back down, actually all the way through your spine. So, follow me. I showed these yesterday on some real quick little 2-3 minute videos. Now we'll just go over the whole thing. So we're going to combine two basic fundamental movements that people have. These are fundamental things. This is like walking or reaching or bending. One is a hinging of your hips, which we use a lot to pick things up, let's say. So here's how this one works. Put your hands right here in the front of your hips, like karate, those cartoon karate hands, right? And push back in the creases of your hips and push your hips back, right? You got the door open there, so people are going to be walking by saying hello. So do that a few times. Notice my back is staying pretty much locked in, not just my low back, but my upper back as well. Now I'm putting my hands on my hips, but I'm going to show you a different position to put your arms in a minute. Notice I bend my knees a little bit. Bending like this is not what we're going for. We're sitting back in our hips, getting a bit of a bend in your knees, right? So now take your arms, hang them out in front of you like this. Sit back. Very important. That's the hinge. That's the hip hinge. You'll feel a big stretch in the back of your legs. You might feel your butt lighten up like a Christmas tree. And you don't have to celebrate Christmas to imagine a butt lighten up like a Christmas tree. You can think of something else. That's just my 2 cents. Now, we're going to take our arms like this. Let's do this 3 times. Hip hinge, sit back, and stand up. Sit back, straight back, stand up. Now we're going to add the second fundamental move, a squat. We're going to go right from the hip hinge to the squat. So sit back. Feels pretty good, right? Now I've seen some people with back trouble. Saw one guy that had been in a car accident. His back, he couldn't do anything. We got him in the right type of hip hinge, and his back felt really good. Might not have been this style, so I think it was a upright, more of a hip hinge, but it's a very basic fundamental movement, loading up these muscles back here. From here, the squat is not in the hips, it's more in the knees. So I'm going to take my arms out in front of me for balance and sink down into a squat. Then stand up. Now, you try the best you can. Let's just do this. Sit back, hip hinge, squat, stand. Sit back, hip hinge, squat, stand. Now, if you're able to sort of do that, here's the one major mistake a lot of people will make. You'll sit back in your hingy hips, right? And then as you come down in a squat, the knees come way forward like this, and you go away from that hip hinge. Keep sitting back. So, you might be not flexible enough, or you might have some other trouble with strength or stability or whatever's going on in you, so you can use a little bit of a prop. Let's do like so. Hip hinge, hold on to something lightly, doesn't have to be crazy heavy. Sink. Notice my butt is staying back. Then stand up. So get yourself a chair, try this, or whatever. Doesn't have to be a chair, it could be doorknobs, could be a piece of furniture, whatever. It could be another person. So, bend over, straight back, hold on to something, I'm down. Now, you might have another problem. You might be so tight you can barely squat. So, for you to start working into this, we can put a little something under your heels. I got this yoga mat, but you can use pillows, books, whatever. I would say, you don't want more than an inch, inch and a half under your heels. You put this under your heels, like so. All right? So now I just got my heels on the mat. Do a hip hinge. Keep sitting back in the hip hinge, right? The mat's going to try to push your hips forward. So you sit back, right? Then squat, stand up. Let's do 5 of those. Sit back, squat, stand up. Sit back, squat, stand up. Breathing pattern, if you want to use one, you know, just breathe, I would say. But if you want a little bit of a pattern to it, maybe exhale here, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. I'm going to kick this away. Try a few more of these. Now, I spent a lot of time sitting today, writing. I didn't get out of the chair anywhere near as much as I should have. So this is sorely needed by me. However, there we go. How did that go? However, making up for missing moving by sitting in a chair, and let's say you sat in a chair for 6-7 hours and barely got out except to use the bathroom or get some water or something. Don't fool yourself thinking, well, tonight I'll just do a half-hour exercise. That's not going to do it. That's where we really fool ourselves. We get in our own way. We become our own worst enemy. You can never make up for that time you spent sitting by something later. That time's already passed. Now you're in a new time. So whatever damage was done there, it's kind of set in. You have to spend the next day moving a whole bunch more. Now, that might seem not that fair, but it's a proven fact that an hour of exercise 3 times a week will not offset all kinds of sitting the rest of your day during the week. Sitting at the office, sitting in watching TV, sitting in the car, whatever it is, it adds up and up and up. Now, when you see people say, well, how many hours total do you sit every day? It's not so much the hours total. It's more what do you do during that time, right? So if you're getting up every 30 minutes and doing, let's say, even 5 of these, right? Let's try again. Let's do 2 more. Hip hinge, squat, stand up. You feel the legs. They're getting kind of worked, right? If your knees are having problems, we'll get to that. Try 3 to 5 of those every 30 minutes. Then tell me how you feel. Then see if you think, oh, well, I'll just have to make up for that with 45 minutes, half hour of exercise tonight, which you can still do. There's nothing wrong with that. But see how much better you feel if you do that. So that's the hip hinge to squat. I don't have a better name for that. Now, since I saw you last time, I haven't shown this, but I spent some time building a lot of model dioramas. And one thing I've done is I have a 3D printer. So I did this test print. I don't know how well you can see this. A couple days, well, how many days ago? 3 or 4 days ago, I guess. There's like a rook for a chess set, except it's hollow with a little stairway in it. So this I did right in my basement. It printed 2 of them. I think it took about 5.5 hours or something like that to print these. So pretty cool. Big learning curve, though. That was the test for me to make my own stuff and have it come out right. That's a lot trickier. So if anyone's close by and knows more about how to use some of this slicing software and all this other stuff, give me a call. Maybe you want to come over and show me. Now, a couple of days ago, we also got some bad news. This is a big one in my life. We found out that Charlie Watts, the drummer of the Rolling Stones, died. They haven't specified what. He is, once Bill Wyman, the bassist, retired from the band in the 90s. Charlie, I believe, became the oldest member. He was 80. I think Mick Jagger is 78, I believe it is. Bill Wyman, I think, is 83, who's still around. But Charlie was still playing shows, and he was going to go out and play this show, too. He's, the Stones, Mick Jagger himself is a physical marvel on stage still, pushing 80. And he has the energy of a lot of people half his age. And Charlie, man, when I was teaching myself drums, and this is how Charlie did it, I found out. This is how Ringo Starr, this is how a lot of drummers did it from back then. They learned by watching other drummers. They never had lessons. And listening to records and just playing with bands, that's how I did it. So I spent a lot of time listening to some of those drummers. One of them was him. I didn't play like him necessarily, not really at all, but I learned about timing of things, little tricks with your left hand or right hand. You pick things up, and let's face it, the Rolling Stones would have not been the Rolling Stones without Charlie Watts. Just think of some of those great drum songs. Honky Tonk Women, right? Boom, 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 right? Can't You Hear Me Knockin's got that great rhythm on it. There's a whole bunch of them. So rest in peace, Charlie. Thank you for being there. Actually, before I go on to the next thing, him and Ringo Starr, two drummers from the same era, never really got much credit because they were, kind of overshadowed by their bigger bandmates. But they both have very original styles, and nobody played rock and roll like they did. Yeah, Ringo Starr gets kind of, he doesn't get enough credit, I don't think. I think with that band and that unique style he had playing with he was left-handed and stuff, I think a lot of drummers wouldn't sound as good. So same with Charlie with the Rolling Stones. Now you can tell how old I am, 61. I'm talking about Charlie Watts and the Stones. And even people even older than me grew up with them even at a younger age. So we were talking about staying moving. And why is that so important? Well, we have all these things in our body called joints. But I want to back up more. Here's the kind of thing you need to look for. As you get older, these joints, I hear it all the time. Oh, it hurts more. It gets harder to get out of bed. Blah, blah, blah. You know the drill. You've heard it in your hands, your knees, your back, shoulders, neck, ankles, wherever it is. And one thing to do is just to move throughout the day. It doesn't have to be that hip hinge squat. Extra walking. And we found, in fact, I didn't find this. I read this. This was kind of a discovery of gravity that they did at NASA about vertical displacement. So just getting up and down like this, right, against gravity. It does wonders for you. And the more I try it, the more I read about it, the more I see that what you eat is very important to your health. Moving is right on par with that. You might not think so, but moving gets all the systems and keeps them running. It affects your blood sugar, your digestion, your muscles, your brains, all kinds of stuff we don't have time to go into today. But I highly recommend that you move throughout the day. Find the habit and just do it. Watch this channel. I got a million movements that are very simple. It's not exercise, it's movement. So there's a big difference between exercise, which is a very artificial thing with a specific goal to build strength, let's say. Moving is just everything else we do. That includes recreation things, playing golf, tennis, that stuff. That's not really exercise per se, in the definition I'm using, right? That's fun stuff. Does playing tennis get you in shape for tennis? There's a lot of, I'm not so sure about that. I think you need some time in the gym. Now, I got a question for everybody out there watching this. Our bodies are made up of the structure of our bodies now. Everybody knows what the highest percentage of element, I don't know what else to call it, we have in our body that makes up our structure. It's water, right? You've all seen the science fiction movies and the horror movies when some monster comes and sucks all the water out of a body and they shrivel up like a prune. They don't look so good and they look a lot smaller, right? Well, do you know what the second highest part of our structure is? Water, I forget. It's a huge percentage. It's a big percentage. It's estimated that we are 30% collagen. Now, if you don't know what that is, I'm sure you've heard of it. You've heard of collagen injections and things that people get. Collagen's a protein, and it makes up so many parts of our bodily structure, right? For instance, our skin has collagen. Tendons in our muscles, not the muscles themselves, but the tendons, the part that attaches the muscle to the bone, which has a different property, function than a muscle does. It's much more like a really stiff rubber, hard rubber band. Also ligaments. Those are all the tough things that hold our joints together. And then within our joints, there's cartilage, which we've heard about that. Lots of collagen, lots of protein. And it's being found that movement, proper diet can have a huge, and proper diet, let's just stick with those two. And I've also found hydration and water, we'll put that in with diet, has a huge effect on the health of your joints. Now, movement-wise, especially when you're getting older, if you're looking just for health, right, in your joints, not an exercise goal. Let's not confuse the two. Remember, that's for a specific purpose, to build strength. We're just talking about where you can go out and have some fun. Maybe you want to go hiking. Maybe you just don't want to hurt in your joints as much, okay? What are some of the things you can do? Well, the move I showed, that's one of any 1,000 different things. But a lot of the time, it's also the speed of things, and it's tied into the strength as well. So let's say, oh, that's too much. Let's say we want to move and kind of get some strength built up. And balance, which is another part of joint health, right? Your body has all these nerve endings and systems that read where you are in space. Otherwise, if it didn't, you couldn't even walk one step without falling over or banging your head. It's really a miraculous machine. Let's do a cross crawl. This is a cross crawl. I windmill my arms around, touch one arm to my opposite thigh. Now, it's the speed of these. As you get older, especially, you're going to find that slowing things down makes, first of all, it makes much tougher. You'll work strength much more. Your joints are really going to love it. It helps strengthen the joints, actually. And the movement also helps send the fluid in the joints to wash it. The right consistency of fluid, especially if you're eating right. Sometimes the fluid can be very watery, and then your joints don't like that. Imagine putting water in your engine, right, instead of oil. What would happen to the engine? It wouldn't last very long, right? Or sometimes it gets too gelatinous. It's another problem. There's a nice sweet spot there. We'll talk about that another time. But movement, notice, try this real slow. Opposite arm to opposite leg. And hold it for a couple seconds. Come down slow, too. Exercise, I use the word exercise, practice, control. This is just one out of it's limitless kind of things you could do, right? So if you were doing a real strength exercise, I would also say whether you're doing body weight, so keep doing that while I talk, body weight, exercise like a push-up, let's say, or if you like to lift weights. See, I lost my balance on that one. You can also bend forward with that hip hinge, reach, go slow. A lot of people will just kind of go like this, right? Kind of hammering on joints, and we're really not getting the effect. You might miss something. Once you start slowing things down, the muscles have to work a lot harder, and isn't that more what we need anyway in this world today where so much stuff is done for us, right? So, a few things. Rest in peace, Charlie Watts. 3D printing, it's the wave of the future, and I'm starting to build diorama parts from it. And most of all, your joints and the difference between exercise and movement. Exercise is this big, movement is the world. It's the huge thing. How you use it, the speed you do it at, your diet, what you eat, as far as how it affects your joints, your cartilage, your collagen, can make a big difference. I'll just leave you with one thing. If you're gobbling down ibuprofen or anti-inflammatories every day, you're not doing your joints any favors. Especially if it's an injured joint and you're taking it, maybe the first day or two you take something, but you want the inflammation in there. That's a stress reaction. It's supposed to be there. So that's what strengthens your joint. It takes that stress and strengthens it again. Just like when a bone is broken, they say, oh, well, where it heals up, it's stronger than it used to be. The same thing with the parts in your joint. So watch the Advil. And any questions, you can certainly go to youngerthanlastyear.net. You and I can do a private virtual one-on-one. Doesn't cost you anything except a little time. And maybe Younger Than Last Year is for you. And with that, I'll see you next Thursday. Let's you and I be younger than we were. No, let's try that again. Let's you and I do one thing each day to be younger than we were last year. I'll see you next time. Back on here. There we go. Woo.